Okay, so you want to own a shopping mall, I get it. Honestly, it sounds like the absolute perfect business model for passive income. You buy a massive plot of land in the suburbs, pour a few million tons of concrete, chop it up into 100 shiny little rooms, and just wait for the rent checks to roll in every single month. You are quite literally printing money from an air-conditioned box. What could possibly go wrong? Well, what if I told you that almost everything you believe about how a mall makes money is a complete illusion? Welcome to the dark side of commercial real estate. Today, we are pulling back the curtain on one of the most stressful, mathematically terrifying, and bizarre business models on earth. Before a single cash register even opens, a mall developer is already trapped in a financial nightmare. Do you know how much it costs to build a modern mega mall today? We aren't talking about a few $1,000,000. We are talking about hundreds of millions, and sometimes well over $1 billion. And what exactly do you get for that $1 billion? You get a massive, relentless daily burn rate. You have to build huge, multi-level parking garages that make absolutely zero direct money, but cost a fortune to pave, light, and clean. You have to pay for industrial commercial HVAC systems that act like artificial lungs, running 365 days a year to keep the building at a perfect 72 degrees, fighting blizzards and heat waves alike. Every single morning you wake up, you're bleeding tens of thousands of dollars just to keep the lights on. So, how do you survive this? You need tenants. You need famous brands to sign 10-year leases, and you need them right now. But here's the catch. You can't just rent to random people. If you open a mall with 50 unknown shops, nobody shows up. You need bait. Big, famous, heavy bait. And to get it, mall owners have to make a deal with the devil. A deal so incredibly unfair, it will probably blow your mind. Think about your local mall for a second. Try to picture the layout in your head. It's usually a long hallway, right? Now, what is sitting at the very ends of that hallway? Exactly. The giant department stores, Macy's, Bloomingdale's, Nordstrom, or maybe a massive hypermarket. They take up 20 to 30% of the entire building. Now, let me ask you a simple logical question. If they take up a third of the building, they must be paying a third of the rent, right? It just makes basic mathematical sense. They must be the ones funding the whole operation. Throw your math book out the window. Because they pay almost nothing. I am totally serious. In many cases, the billionaire developer actually gives the land to these giant brands completely for free, or they charge them pennies compared to everyone else. Sometimes the mall owner even pays millions to build the inside of the store just to beg them to move in. Why on earth would a ruthless real estate developer just give away their most valuable space? Because of one simple phrase: foot traffic. These giant stores are called anchor tenants. The mall owner willingly takes a massive bleeding financial loss on the big guys just to lure you, the shopper, through the front doors. Because the real game, the real money, starts the second you walk out of that department store. Have you ever noticed that there are no clocks in a mall? Have you noticed there are almost no windows looking outside? It's a calculated psychological trick called the Gruen effect. You are supposed to lose track of time. You are supposed to wander. And as you wander, slightly disoriented in this bright, artificial paradise, you walk past the small, independent shops, the boutique jewelers, the phone case kiosks, the specialty coffee stands. Here is the brutal truth. Those tiny businesses are the actual prey. While the giant anchor store pays practically nothing, the tiny kiosk in the middle of the aisle is paying hundreds of dollars per square foot. The mall owner literally forces the small guys to subsidize the giants. It's a parasite ecosystem. But what happens if this delicate little ecosystem breaks? What happens if just one tiny thing goes wrong? Imagine you are playing a high-stakes game of Jenga. Everything is perfectly balanced, but it's incredibly fragile. You pull the wrong piece, and the whole thing comes crashing down. Let's say the global economy shifts. People start buying their shoes, phones, and TVs on Amazon. Suddenly, that giant anchor tenant at the end of the mall goes bankrupt and shuts its doors permanently. You just lost your main source of foot traffic. That hurts, right? But it's not the end of the world. Or is it? This is where the nightmare truly begins. Hidden deep inside the hundreds of pages of legal contracts for all those small stores is a secret weapon. It's called the co-tenancy clause, and it is the stuff of absolute nightmares for real estate developers everywhere. Think about it from the small business owner's perspective. They only agreed to pay that crazy high rent because the big anchor store was supposed to bring in the crowds. The contract literally says, if the anchor leaves, the deal is off. The absolute second that giant department store turns off its lights and locks its doors, the co-tenancy clause is triggered like a tripwire across the entire mall. Instantly, the small stores can legally demand a massive rent reduction, sometimes 50% or more. Or even worse, the clause gives them the legal right to just pack up their merchandise and leave immediately without paying a single penalty fee. Think about that for a second. One store closes, and overnight, your entire rental income as a mall owner completely vaporizes. But guess what doesn't vaporize? Your multi-million-dollar mortgage payments to the bank, your property taxes, your massive electricity bills. This is how a mall physically dies. It's a massive, unstoppable legal domino effect. One empty store becomes 5. 5 becomes 20. The lights dim. The floors get dirty. The shoppers feel uneasy and stop coming entirely. The mall turns into a giant concrete ghost town. So, game over, right? The mall owner loses everything and goes bankrupt crying? Actually, no. And this brings us to the biggest, most mind-blowing secret of the entire retail industry. If you drive past a dead, abandoned mall, you probably feel bad for the people who built it. You shouldn't. Because here is the ultimate plot twist. The biggest mall owners in the world do not care about retail. They couldn't care less if you buy a sweater or a pretzel. They aren't shopkeepers. They are massive Wall Street financial vehicles called REITs, real estate investment trusts. And to them, a mall is not a place of commerce. It is just a giant casino chip used to manipulate debt, avoid taxes, and please shareholders. Here is the cheat code they use. Let's say they build a mall for $100 million. It opens, it's packed with people, and it's generating cash. Wall Street appraisers look at it and say, wow, congratulations, this is now a $300 million asset. Do they sell it to lock in the profit? Nope. They go to a major bank and say, we have this amazing $300 million asset. We want to borrow $200 million in cash against it. The bank happily hands over the money. And here is the magic trick. Because that $200 million is technically a loan, it is 100% tax-free. The mall owners take that tax-free cash, pay themselves massive dividends, and walk away. They have already pulled all their original money out, plus a massive profit. Now, fast forward 10 years. E-commerce dominates. The anchor tenant goes bankrupt. The co-tenancy clauses trigger, and the mall dies. It becomes a zombie. Do the billionaire owners panic? Not at all, because the loan they took out is usually what is called a non-recourse loan. That means if the mall goes bankrupt, the bank can only take the mall itself. They cannot touch the billionaire's personal bank accounts or their other assets. The owners just toss the keys to the bank, say good luck with your empty concrete box, and walk away completely unscathed, having made hundreds of millions of dollars years ago. The bank is left holding a worthless building. So the next time you walk into a sprawling, beautifully air-conditioned shopping center, stop and look around. Look past the shiny neon signs and the crowded food courts. You aren't just in a place to buy shoes. You are standing inside a highly leveraged, multi-billion-dollar Wall Street scheme. And you are just part of the foot traffic.